Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to the video. Today's vehicle is a 2013 Ford Edge, and as you can probably see behind me, this thing's really dirty. So after driving on wet roads in the city and muddy grid roads as the owner works out of town, this vehicle has gotten really dirty on the outside with the unseasonably warm weather we've had over the last few weeks. It's pretty well everywhere you look in this car, and it's caked in dirt. Now moving to the interior, and a lot of that dirt has found its way inside the vehicle too. So besides the floor mats and the door jambs, the seats are also either covered in a layer of dust or they've got mud on them from kids' shoes. And now just before I get started on this detail, take a quick second and subscribe to the channel and turn the bell on so you don't miss out on any future videos like this one. All right, well I think it's time to get the pressure washer fired up, get this vehicle transformed. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm not sure there's any better way to start this video off than with some super satisfying pressure washing to get all this caked on dirt removed. And even though I've just started, by the time I finish the pre-wash rinse, this vehicle is already going to look 10 times better. Moving to the back and where the majority of the dirt is, and this area obviously just takes a little more time to rinse off as there's a lot of dirt that's hiding underneath the trim or in crevices that needs to be flushed out so it doesn't end up running out later when I go to wash the vehicle. And now as you can see, the rear wheels and wheel wells were super dirty and full of mud. But since this isn't a GM truck, I don't have to spend hours blasting all the dirt out of carpeted wheel well liners. I can get the plastic ones on this edge sprayed out in only a couple of minutes. While I get the other rear wheel sprayed off here, I figured I'd remind you guys, go give me a follow over on Instagram if you want to see sneak peeks of upcoming videos or behind the scenes stuff, because that's definitely the best place to stay up to date on things. Alright, so with the wheels clean, it's time to give this thing a foam bath. So I've already added a couple ounces of my car wash soap to the bottle and then filled it up with water, shook it up really good, and you can see it produces nice thick foam. And just a note, I got this foam cannon off Amazon for pretty cheap, so there's no need to pay the ridiculous prices that some of those name brand ones cost, as they're all pretty well built the same. So you guys can probably see some snow in the background. And like I mentioned in the opening, we've had some pretty nice weather here the last couple of weeks, and most of the snow we had has melted. So I'm definitely enjoying being able to wash outside today, because I know those -40 temperatures are coming whether I want them to or not, and I'll be stuck doing everything inside the garage. Now as Mike gives me a hand drying this vehicle off, can we all just take a second and appreciate how far he's come over the past 6 months, when I used to have to beg him to come out and help. And today, he offered help without even being asked. Although he still gave me lip when I told him he missed a spot. Alright, so with everything out of all the compartments, it's time to get the vacuum plugged in. And for those of you who are curious how I'm able to plug this into the wall, click the card, check out my garage tour video as I go into detail on it there. So using a detail brush is a really great way to get down into the air vents or any other crevice, get the dust lifted out. And honestly, these brushes provide the biggest bang for your buck in terms of how much use and value they can provide to a detail. So if you guys are at all interested, I've got the link to these Detail Factory brushes I'm using down in the description, and would highly recommend you guys pick some up. Moving down to the carpets, and although this vehicle had rubber floor mats in here, these carpets are just dirty enough to pull the Bissell out for, so once I finish up vacuuming, I'll get to work on extracting all the dirt that's hiding in these carpets. Turning to the pedals, and after spraying on some 4:1 APC, I'll use the steamer to agitate, get these pedals nice and clean. But if you don't have a steamer, that's just fine. You can simply use the APC along with any sort of stiffer brush that can get the caked on dirt loosened up, and you can still get the same results. So after spraying on some of my carpet solution, I'll let it sit for a minute and then use the drill brush to get the dirt loosened up and ready to be sucked away by the extractor. And so using only hot water in the Bissell, I start by making a few passes while I spray on water, which helps to further dilute the solution. And then once I see the water coming out clear, I'll switch to just extracting so I can get the carpets as dry as possible. If you guys are curious as to what I'm using for solution, or where you can get a set of the drill brushes or the Bissell Spot Clean Professional that I use, I've got the links to them in the description, so feel free to check those out if you guys are interested. So here's all the dirty water that came out of these carpets. Not the dirtiest I've seen, but there was a fair bit of crud that had already settled to the bottom. Moving to all the interior trim, and depending on how dirty it is, I'll either just wipe everything down with a damp microfiber towel, or in this case spray in a bit of 10-to-1 all-purpose cleaner, and then wipe everything down. So the cup holders in the back seat here were full of caked on grime. So using the detail brush to get all that loosened up works really well, and then it can just be wiped clean with a dry microfiber towel. Moving to these leather seats, and there were quite a few areas where there was something super sticky and grimy stuck in the seats, but the Meguiar's leather cleaner and horsehair brush made pretty quick work of it, and I was able to get these seats nice and clean without a whole lot of effort. Then once I've got them all clean, I'll apply some conditioner using a microfiber applicator pad to keep them looking and feeling soft and supple. Now to dress and UV protect all the interior trim, I'm using a microfiber applicator pad and applying some 303 aerospace protectant, which is going to last for about 4 to 6 weeks. Leave everything with a non-slippery, non-greasy, and matte finish when it dries. Alright guys, so finally I had a vehicle in where I get to detail the engine bay, and I know a ton of you have been wanting to see this for quite a while. So the very first thing I do here is completely disconnect the battery, so there's no danger of anything getting wet and causing a short. Then I'll spray some degreaser pretty well over the entire engine bay, making sure to spray a bit more on the dirtier areas. And the most important thing about using a degreaser is that you don't want to let it dry, so when you're doing this, you're going to want to move pretty quick. Next, I'll use my soft wheel brush to agitate the larger, flatter surfaces, basically anywhere I can get this brush on. Then for the tighter areas, I'll use my smaller Speedmaster brush, and this works really well to get down into those spots where you can't possibly reach with your hand. Last up, I'll grab a small detail brush and get down into any of the crevices where my other brushes couldn't reach, like around the air filter box where there's a ton of tiny little crevices that are all full of dirt. Now once everything has been agitated, I'll simply just use the hose to rinse everything off, and if anyone's worried about things getting wet, it's perfectly safe to do this as I'm not using high pressure water, which could lead to water getting forced somewhere that it shouldn't be, plus the fact that in this engine the alternator is already covered. Really, engines these days are built and designed in a way that they can handle being wet. I wouldn't recommend taking a pressure washer to it, but what I'm doing here is completely safe. Though, if you guys are still in that no water camp, I do have a video where I detail an engine bay without running water, so give that a look if you guys are curious. So once I've got everything rinsed off, I'll use my leaf blower to just quickly dry things off and get the majority of the water dealt with. Then I'll just go over everything with a microfiber towel and make sure it's perfectly dry. Now to dress all the black plastic and rubber components in here, I'll quickly spray a bit of 303 protectant down and then go over everything with a microfiber applicator pad. So here's the before shot, and after about 20 minutes of work, it's looking 10 times better. Moving back outside, and there's a fair bit of iron contamination on this paint. As you guys can see, those iron particles are starting to rust. So using some detailing clay, along with some quick detailer as lubricant, I'm rubbing the clay over the paint, and it's going to fairly easily pick up those iron particles and any other contaminants that are bonded to the paint, getting it nice and clean and ready for a coat of wax or sealant. All right, turning back to the paint, and I'm using my Meguiar's synthetic sealant here, which is going to add some nice gloss to this white paint. And the really nice thing about this sealant is that it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to dry, so I can apply it to the whole vehicle, and by the time I'm done that, it's ready to be removed. Now to make the black plastic trim on the exterior pop, I'm applying 303 protectant, which is going to offer great UV protection and give the trim that freshly detailed look to match the glossy paint. Now to revive the look of the floor mats a little bit without making them slippery, I'll also use 303. Start by just spraying an even layer on and then using an applicator pad to ensure a thin layer is applied everywhere. Pretty good, eh?
That is amazing. Wow. Oh my gosh, this looks like brand new. That's so awesome. This is the worst part, was in the back when I was sitting. Oh my gosh. I don't even want to let my kid ride this. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, my pleasure.
That's awesome.
All right guys, and 10 hours later, I've got this Ford Edge looking pretty again. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you smash the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and yeah, enjoy the guitar outro, and I'll see you guys in the next one.